It's just this my hiding background. That's all.
Yeah.
We're live on YouTube.
Yeah. What? Looks all right, doesn't it? Will it do?
We're live on YouTube. Hey.
Hooray, great.
Cross the bridge. Come to the AOA.
Okay, wow.
I'll leave the background.
Okay.
I'm being. Is that all right? Oh, I see. Look at you, Rod.
Okay, we are on YouTube now.
Yes. Okay. So
I don't know if people can see us, but we should start then.
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Academy of Astrology. I'm Rod Chang, and today with me is our faculty team, Sue Brother, Mandy Luckley, and Marcus Patchett. Hiya. So, wow, this is the very first time for our live stream, and I still don't know. Are we doing it right or not? Because I think I'm on there is one things that I setting up, but there is another things going on. I think probably, I make a slightly mistake about live stream, but anyway, we are here now. So, well, today we're going to talk about Mundane Astrology, and later Sue will leading us talk about chart of Prince Philip, right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So that's beginning with the Mundane Astrology. Then I'll ask questions about. First is Mandy. Mandy, I know you are into Mundane Astrology. So could you give us a few words about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mundane Astrology is basically about it's world astrology, and I often think the name Mundane Astrology is a bit of a misnomer because we associate the word mundane with boring, routine, ordinary, but it actually means of the world. It comes down from the Latin word mundus, which means the world, and it came down into late Middle English as mundane, which basically mundane means worldly, and it also means ordinary, but it means worldly as opposed to spiritual. So that's what mundane astrology is. So mundane astrologers, people who practice mundane astrology, they look at history, they look at science, they look at anything that's going on in the real world of the world, and the charts of countries and leaders and prominent people are often used, and big events as well are often as well. And people often think, oh, I can't do mundane astrology because I don't know history. I'm not really, sort of like an expert on history or an expert on sort of world leaders or politics. But you can easily use and adapt very quickly the astrology that you already know that might be to do with birth charts. It's really easily translatable once you get used to it. And then you watch the news, you listen to the themes, you can see the themes playing out in the news. We've got the internet, so you can do your research. I didn't even take history at school, and one of the things I love about mundane astrology, and I didn't take politics either, or economics or any of that. One of the things I love about mundane astrology is like seeing something that's happening in the world, finding what looking at the astrology, doing the research, going back and forth into sort of, when was this measurement in the sky last time, when was Saturn Uranus last really prominent, what happened, and how did one thing lead to another? And I just think it's really fascinating.
Yeah. You just remind me one thing, because I finally realized I'm really into mundane astrology is when people talking about other public figures chart, maybe like people from Big Brothers or certain like a royal families chart or something, I was just like, it's okay. But once things happen, like I remember like a couple of years ago when the Iceland volcano erupted or something, I was immediately drop everything down, start to like look at the chart, check everything. I couldn't resist to just like immediately, I have to do it. How about Marcus? What's your view about mundane astrology?
Oh, just a few thoughts. I mean, just coming off, just echoing what Mandy said there. There are two things. Just picking up on two of the themes. One was what you said, Mandy. I really liked about the astrology being, you don't need a separate kind of astrology. Actually, the language is transferable. And I think this is true from the smallest level, which is horary astrology. Where is my handbag? To the highest level, which is like, some big disaster or some international event or whatever. You're using the same language. So the same skills apply. That's a really important point, I think, because people do get a bit, like, oh, I can't do that. And it's like, actually, if you know this, it's the same language. And the second thing I really liked was the point about cycles repeating. And that's a really good way into it. Like just to look at when some big thing happens, you can go two ways. And the simplest way as astrologers or as people who are speaking or learning astrologies is to look at what's happening in the sky at the time of this event. And then one of the simplest ways in is to go and look at when that or a similar thing happened previously. So if there's some sort of fairly unique contact between two of the slower moving planets or sky objects at the time, look at when that happened previously and see if there are any echoes. So that's one way. Only other thoughts on it are that it can get very complicated, but not in the sense that you're speaking a different language. It's still using those same skills, but just in the number of charts you can end up looking at. That's where mundane can get complicated, but it doesn't have to be. You can actually sometimes boil things down to one chart. So, I mean, this is your area, Rod. I know you're big into eclipses. Like I love eclipse charts for that because they often speak to big changes in the world, and often one chart can yield you loads of really interesting information.
Exactly.
So and you can look at the charts of countries and treat them almost like people with very, very long lifespans.
Yes.
You can just do the transits and the progressions for those charts. And so I'm going to shut up now, but those are some of my initial thoughts. So.
Yeah, I was just thinking while you're talking about eclipses, you explain very beautifully, and I say, oh dear, what I'm going to talk about later.
Oh no,
I'm just teasing you. Okay, let me stop while we have few people watching us, and then some of our friends, because we can conversation with them on YouTube, and there is Astro Spice. I don't know who is, must be one of our friends.
All right.
and they say. Great to see you guys, and you are back. Oh, we are back. Oh yes, we used to. I think before we used to like recording our film whole day.
Yeah.
And then now it's like go online. It's very easily. How Sue? Yeah. Please tell us what's mundane astrology for you.
Okay. Well, actually, I agree very much with everything that people are saying. Actually, what Manny's been saying about other countries and events, not just countries, but also events. I mean, you can look at anything that's happening in the world through astrology and make some sense out of it. Think about it, put it together and make sense out of it. And it can actually give you a purpose, a reason to be here in the world. It's like, how does that happen? Well, it's like, at the turn of last year, there was the periodical repeating Jupiter-Saturn cycle, and that happens every 20 years. So every 20 years, roughly speaking, we get a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, and that is often very significant and actually heralding a new beginning, a new era, a new kind of period, particularly the last one, because then the two planets were in air. They've moved into Aquarius, and they will be there for the next 20 years. Well, not both of them, but the essence is the beginning is there. So that I find very fascinating. I like to follow those big changes, but I also like little things, more personal things like the moon. I mean, Marcus just mentioned eclipses that I think maybe Rod may be talking about at some point. But I love watching the moon. It's like when I was a student, one of the things that my tutor said to me quite a long time ago now is that are you aware of what's happening in the sky? Because sometimes astrologers get stuck inside the ephemeris, looking down at lists of things, what's going on when and all of that. I mean, I do that too. But I also try to watch the sky, to see what's happening. So when it's not raining and cloudy in this country, I like to see where the moon is in its cycle. Just now, I don't know if any of you watching know where the moon is right now. I mean,
somewhere in Gemini, I think.
yeah. But I mean, people that don't particularly practice astrology wouldn't necessarily know that, but they will know the phase of the moon if you keep an eye on the moon. If you look at what the shape it's in a waxing, that is a growing phase just now. Okay. And the new moon for this particular cycle, because it goes around every 27 years or thereabouts, it was around about, I think it was the 11th, 12th of April, there was a new moon. So we're in a new cycle for this month, and this thing, it'll go through signs every couple of days, every two, yes, it is a couple of days. It goes through the signs in every couple of days, but the shape, we just if you don't have to know anything about astrology, but if you watch the sky, you get a feeling for what's going on. And it's like, you know, it will become a full moon again 2 weeks after the new moon. So you just kind of get a way of rhythming that. And I kept a diary it's an interesting practice, actually. I kept a diary, a moon diary for a month through the cycle, starting with the new moon, and just made notes, just little notes about what was happening for me. Right?
That's
with
interesting.
regard to anything that's happening for a country or you know, an organization, a business, anything really. But I did it just for me, and it was actually a really interesting exercise. So it's a little suggestion I might make to people if they find that interesting. If they like the moon, which I love the moon, then it's like, you know, make a little note, make a little moon diary for yourself. Just practical, down-to-earth things. How was your day on the day of a new moon, or the day after the new moon, and so on through the month? Just for a month, the thing to do. So
you can really see, Sue is really a teacher. She's starting teaching you how to study astrology.
Yeah,
especially
it's great.
how
It's
to
great. I love it.
study mundane astrology
Great
in the
advice.
most easy way. Keep your moon diary and write down every little note.
It's fantastic. Like it's one of the oldest things. Like I'm just reading up on financial mundane astrology recently, because I'm getting kind of interested in that. That one of the techniques was to look at the new moon and the full moon charts every month.
Yes,
track,
indeed.
So
that is a very ancient technique, Sishji, right? Like especially the Sishji before the spring equinox, Aries in Greece, and that in ancient time, that chart determined market for whole year.
Right.
Whole year.
Absolutely,
Yes, so that's very interesting. Okay, let me have something to say our viewers' opinion. Okay, our Astro Spice. She's from Peru. I think that must be Marcus' friend or something.
Hola.
Hola. Okay. She said, I'm a follower from Peru, and she asked us, could we give a little bit mind of talking about Uranus in Taurus? Because yes, she's right. Because coming very soon, next week, planet O move into inner planet O move into Taurus and going to hit Uranus very soon. And we have Sharon say hi. Yes, and also okay. Well, Astro might say, could we also talk about full moon coming up, because the Scorpion full moon, probably I am scared, she said. Okay, I have to say, don't be scared. You know, there's so many times moon go to Scorpion. Each year there's a once full moon in Taurus Scorpion. We all fine. We all survive.
Well, I think we're going to talk about that next week, aren't we, Rod?
Yes, indeed. Yes. So,
yeah, I know why she's worried about it, because it's squaring Saturn and conjunct Uranus. So it's a bit of a trigger
whole Saturn
Uranus.
A chewy
one, but we'll talk about that next week.
We definitely.
Before we talk about Uranus in Taurus and go into that, which is absolutely fascinating. There's a lot to say about Uranus in Taurus. Can I just answer something that Sue was saying about the moon?
Yes.
Because I think and this might sound a little bit strange, but following those moon cycles, the new moon, the first quarter moon, the full moon, and the last quarter moon, is also another really good way of understanding, coming to understand the big, longer, and very long, some of them, outer planet cycles as well. Because, for example, the sort of Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in December in Aquarius has the energy. It's not the same as a full moon, but it has the energy. A new moon. It has the energy of a new moon. It's the start. It's the beginning of the cycle. Yes. And then when you get the square a few years later, then that's like the opening square.
Yes.
Sort of the waxing, and then the opposition between Jupiter and Saturn has a little bit of the energy of the full moon. So it's that other thing again of sort of understanding sort of the basics of the moon you can expand that kind of awareness and sort of see it in that way as well. So.
Yes. Okay. Before we talk about Taurus, Uranus in Taurus, because we know we have a lot to talk. Indeed, we did make 2 videos about it. I remember. So, as Trust Spice, don't forget to go back to check our archive. You know, there is the Uranus in Taurus video there, okay? But I want to ask one thing, very short things, okay? Every of us. What is maybe I don't think it's a great question, but what is your favorite technique for mundane? Or what you feel most, or you don't resonate most? Should we start with Sue then?
Okay. I'm not quite sure I understand the question, Rod. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry,
what is your favorite technique related to mundane astrology?
Oh, I just watch my ephemeris.
Okay. Fair enough.
I don't do it. I don't have a particular technique. I do just watch what's going on. I keep track. I've got other books other than the ephemeris that will give me ideas as well.
Okay.
I just watch what's going on. It's simple as that, Rod. I don't do anything in particular. I don't have a particular technique.
Okay.
Marcus probably has.
Well, only because I'm mainly retentive and I like that kind of thing, you know. But yeah, I do. Shall I just?
Yes, please.
I stuck my oar in. Okay.
Yes.
If I'm looking at a country, I'd probably just look at the equinoxes, the ingresses, you know, like the Aries ingress, and then the other 3, the summer Cancer ingress, Libra ingress, Capricorn ingress charts, and more broadly eclipses, and those are really my 2 mainstays. I mean, I don't get much more fancy than that, to be honest. So ingress charts and eclipse charts.
Okay. So. Mandy?
Similar, really. Obviously, I like to follow the outer planet cycles, and there's 10 of those, and the way they all intersect with each other as well can be really interesting. Again, I find the ingress charts really, really useful. So when the sun goes into 0 degrees of Aries, and then I won't repeat, but all the cardinal.
It's true.
Yes.
And that's quite interesting as well. I find that the idea of the Aries point quite interesting, because the Aries point itself is supposed to be representing where the private goes public, and quite often you'll see individuals come up when, you know, especially if it resonates with their chart as well, you'll see individuals coming into the news around the Aries point, and coming out. That's quite interesting. And it's good to predict. Those ingress charts are probably the best short-term predictive charts, I think.
Yeah, I personally I like Ingress chart, and I check all the 4 Ingress chart, but sometimes I just really want to focus on Aries Ingress, and now I am trying to learn, trying to do the study about the syzygy, about the whole year things.
I've got about it. There's a really good traditional thing there, Rod, from William Ramsey about the it's really cool, because it's about the Ingress charts. It's about this is maybe a bit too specific for some of the audience, but it's a little astro geeky thing. But it's really cool. It's like in an ingress chart, if you have a movable or cardinal sign rising, like one of the solstice signs like Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, then you have to, this was the traditional rule. This is Renaissance astrology. You have to do all 4 ingress charts for the year. If there's a mutable sign rising or a common sign, Pisces, Sag, Gemini, Virgo, you only do 2. You only do the spring and the autumn. And if there's a fixed sign rising, you only need 1 chart for the whole year. That was the traditional rule.
So as a lazy astrologer, I just want every year Aries Ingress on the fixed sign.
Fixed sign rising. Totally. Fixed sign rising. Brilliant. Only got to do 1 chart.
And that's because the fixed signs are slow and the cardinal signs are fast and the mutable signs are medium, just like in
thank
horror,
you for that, Mandy. Yes, exactly. That
this is very important about the foundation of astrology. Once you know the fundamental of a sign, the mutable, the cardinal, also called movable, or the fixed sign, then you know why they do only 1 chart or 2 chart, or how they have to do 4 charts. And I like also, I like eclipses. I'm crazy about it at the Saros Circle. Every time when I start it, that would be crazy because, Saros Circle is like you have to do the circle for every 18 years. So once I see an event, I will start like, what happened 18 months before? What happened 18 years ago? And da. Okay, Sharon share her mind. Sharon say, well, Aries Ingress, CCG, eclipse, and my first port of call with Marcus. Yes, the changing of Ingress chart in ancient much older than Ramsey. Okay, all right.
Okay.
We also have Sharon. Next time we should have Sharon in. No, later Sharon is our good friend, and she will soon appear in our Academy of Astrology Mundane Astrology series. Later, I will reveal it. Okay, let's go to answer. Let's talk a little bit, just very tiny bit about Taurus in Uranus, because Astra is here and she asked. Also, I say she can go to look at the video, but I think we can still talk about a little bit because this is really important when inner planet move in to trigger that Uranus in Taurus. Should we maybe start with Mandy?
Well, my first thought for Uranus in Taurus is that we're finally having to come to terms with what we've done to the Earth, because Taurus is the sign of nature, and Uranus basically means that we need to make, Uranus comes along and tells us where we need to make revolutionary changes to the way we live. That's often on a personal. If you're on a personal transit of Uranus, but the world transit is so. I think that's the main thing for me. I won't say too much because there's lots to say, and everyone else has got lots to say as well. But the idea of agriculture and what agriculture is the impact that agriculture is having on the land, for example. So anything to do with sort of nature and farming is to do with Taurus. So Uranus is highlighting that and making things obvious.
And just to reiterate what Rod said earlier, Mandy did a brilliant video called Uranus in Taurus, Shake Your Body, which is on our playlist, which you should go and watch because it's fantastic. Where you unpack it in detail. So
yes. Yeah. Okay, Marcus, what do you think about, or any remind about Uranus in Taurus? I know you're traditional.
Well, no, but I still use it. I still use the outers. So yeah, but it's true. I mean, I focus mainly on the traditional 7, but I do use the outers, particularly if they're sitting on an angle or they're showing up in a chart prominently, because they work. So well, reiterating what Mandy said, I think just in terms of, to bring it down to earth a little bit, somebody who really seems to be epitomizing that to me at the moment, if you're aware of her, is Vananda Shiva. I think Indian lady. She actually is a qualified particle physicist. She qualified in particle physics, I think, or something, from Oxford in the 80s. She's been campaigning in India for the last 30 years. So that's an interesting astronomical number that might have some resonance that we should probably research. But she's been campaigning for a long number of years, quite quietly but prominently in India against companies like Microsoft and the incursion of Bill Gates into Indian agriculture. And now she's really championing the removal of tech from agriculture in India and trying to get, so it's really epitomizing that Uranus in Taurus in that square with Saturn, where you've got Saturn as this sort of controlling sort of, I see that Saturn in Aquarius is almost like socially controlling factors, essentially trying to overcome the sort of Taurus thing, and the Uranus, like there's a rebellion in it over issues to do with the earth and plants and all of that, and she seems to be one of the avatars of that to my mind, but there will be others, but yeah.
Sue, how about you want to remind everyone about the Taurus, Uranus in Taurus? Anything about it?
Yeah. I've been sitting listening. I mean, absolutely focusing on nature and fertility and, all the things that you've been talking about. But one of the other areas that Taurus is responsible for or represents, shall we say, is money. And actually money, the whole money situation is changing. I can't speak for all the countries in the world, but certainly in the Western world, there has been so much. I mean, there's an economical, huge Uranian upheaval within the economies of many countries, but also on a personal level, on an individual level. I mean, look at what's happening. I mean, it's like if we go to buy something, mostly you have to pay with a card now. It's like it's moving us away from money, from actual physical money, which is Taurus. It's like gold coins or pennies, whatever. We're moving. The whole attitude to money is being shaken up by Uranus and Taurus, I think. The way people use it, the way people choose to spend it, the way in which they spend it, what an organization or a shop or some retail place would accept as being acceptable. All of that is kind of being changed as well. It's actually quite huge, the changes that are happening. It's plants, it's fertility, it's agriculture, it's food, the way we process food, the way we choose to eat it. There's more and more people becoming vegetarian or vegan, or people becoming more aware of what they're eating, right? Yes, I think
yes. I think yes, the money side, the financial side is pretty important, because Taurus, we all know, the very, very easy, very first things we're talking about Taurus is financial and the money and the material worlds. And as Uranus moving into the Taurus, there is like about a financial system shiftment. And we can see, because with those digital finance and those crypto coins thing, like Bitcoins thing, especially I think was a couple of days ago was just the first company going to IPO about the crypto coins, and that was like a huge, because that symbolized this kind of digital financial things are more and more popular, and that they are really going to everyday's life. Like Tesla just announced that you can buy Tesla with Bitcoin.
Wow.
And then you just think,
how many millions?
Am I really? Yeah, because I was thinking, should I invest it? But I always think about that. I'm not sure. I better waiting for the Uranus move up Taurus.
Yeah, there's two. I had two thoughts coming off of that, and one was just, it's like in astrology you can read things on different levels, obviously. So we've got the Uranus and Taurus, and then from the, no pun intended, old money, like the old system, we've got the Jupiter Saturn conjunction in Aquarius that Sue and Mandy were both mentioning earlier, that recently happened at the end of last year. I think of Aquarius is the detriment of the sun. Okay. So that sort of starting off not just the next 20 years, but the next 200 years, because now Jupiter and Saturn are going to be conjoining in air signs for 200 years. So this one was really significant. And also astronomically, apparently they were the closest they've been to each other in the sky for over 500 years with this conjunction. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because Aquarius being the detriment of the sun symbolizes gold. So this is like a conjunction which is literally talking about what you're talking about there, Sue, like the destruction of, maybe we might see in this period the end of the gold standard or something, you know.
Indeed.
So it's like it's echoing that some of the themes. It's also the sun is individuality and kingship, so you can see with the sort of whole social justice movement, where that goes, we don't know, but at least these things are coming into consciousness about. It's sort of like the positive side is about social equality, and the negative side potential is about the sort of destruction of individuality. And it's this conversation is happening on multiple levels at the moment, I think.
Marcus, sorry, Mandy, you first.
Here's something really interesting. You know, two things again. We're talking about economic things with and Jupiter and Saturn is associated with economies as well, and also Uranus is about technology. So that technology, the idea of the cashless society, Taurus money, cashless technology. Our money is now technology rather than physical. But interestingly, when you're thinking about the Jupiter Saturn conjunction that we just had in December last year in Aquarius, and that's really fascinating. I never associated it with the detriment of the sun and gold.
That's beautiful.
I was thinking about how it's that conjunction is a reset, because it's the conjunction of the 20-year cycle, but it's also a reset because now all the conjunctions for the next 200 or so years, just over 200 years, are going to be in the air sign. So it's a reset. So I looked up reset, I googled reset, and what came up was the World Economic Forum, which is a group of the global elite who meet at Davos. You might have seen, whenever they meet at Davos, they set the agenda for the world. They have launched, in the wake of the pandemic,
the Great Reset.
The Great Reset Initiative, and it's just another example. You can think they're trying to do good for the environment, for equality, if you read their website.
But astrologically, it's fascinating, isn't it?
No, you can see that language.
Great reset.
Yes. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. And a lot of people think the Great Reset is a big conspiracy. You know, so you've got all these different sort of things.
But that too is a reflection of the Saturn-Uranus square, isn't it? The Saturn in Aquarius. With that square to Uranus, you can see the sort of like these socially conservative, perhaps, or controlling forces.
Yes.
And then these sort of earth rebels, you know, the sort of grassroots rebellion fermenting as they move into square.
Very nice,
you know?
Okay, I have to hijack from here because when it's related to your topic, because the Saturn-Uranus square is the major theme of this year. We know that, and it's major outer planet circle of this year. It will happen from January and in June, and then in December again. And we are just talking about financial world and the old power, old money with the rebelling force. And I don't know if you still remember in the early this year, just before I think it's the 29th of January, that very interesting news about online, those people on Reddit, they group up together to really like kind of they kind of invest certain share that Wall Street investor doesn't like.
They disrupted a hedge fund.
And the investor try to squeeze, right? I think the word is called squeeze. a particular share called GameStop. This company is video game company on the high street retail. But you know, at this moment, high street retail is going down. So the investor tries like, oh, they are not going to work. We're going to squeeze them. We're going to make them kind of have the price going down. Interestingly, those people on Reddit, they group together. They say, we are going to buy it. So that Wall Street investor, they have to lose their money. And they really did. The price of GameStop from, I think, only a couple cents to $400 in 3 days. And then Wall Street lost their money, big big financial, they lost money. But have you seen what related is Uranus rebelling power on internet grouped together to against old power, and they code regulation. But it's very interesting.
Yeah.
So we only can play your game by your rule.
It is very one of the things I'm thinking with, and it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out, is the traditional idea of overcoming, like which planet is at the top of that square.
Yes.
You know, in the 10th position from the other one. So in this square, Saturn is in the sort of 10th house position or 10th sign position from Uranus. So this time around, I think some of the more conservative or controlling forces will win out, at least until 14, 16 years in the future, when the square reverses and Uranus will be on top, you know? So
you mean the old money still going to take control?
I don't know. This is what I'm saying, because obviously it's not in Capricorn anymore. It's in Aquarius, and Aquarius is not the same as Capricorn. I think it's more about social conservatism and social control. So there'll be something about socially conservative and socially controlling forces that end up, this will be interesting to see if it works. It end up sort of dominating the rebellious forces this time around, I think. But I don't know. I mean, that's just the thing I'm thinking with.
Social control. I mean, it's like the pandemic, which hasn't finished.
No.
Are we really going there?
No, we won't. Let's not go there.
I'm going to say one thing.
I don't mind.
Well, I'm also aware of the time. I just want to say one thing, which is, you know, there is likely to be, and is already heading that way, more social control. There's been a lot of social control during the pandemic, but as that eases, so more larger social control comes in, right? You know, it's like, we're going to have vaccine and passports and all that.
Oh, yes.
You know, it's like, you know, do you have to produce evidence that you've had injections before you can go and shop? You know, this is social control, and it's a very sort of thing that Saturn loves. Saturn likes that, because Saturn likes to have things all organized so that it can keep a track on what's going on, right? Whereas Uranus wants to break it all, right? So the square is actually jolly interesting, because it's like the suggestion is going to be, on the one hand, authoritarian sort of control, authorities control. On the other hand, you know, a quite a big contingent of those that are rebelling against it, or objecting to it, or we're subjecting the whole thing to more and more technology. Right? It's a big subject, and I won't go on anymore. But
I think we talk about. Sorry, Marcus.
Summary. Sorry, no, carry on, Rod. I was just saying, that's a brilliant summary. I loved it. It's good.
Yeah. Thank you, Sue. And okay, should we just because we talk about quite a lot about, you know, the Taurus and about the financial things. Because today we have an important subject, because the hot topic about currently Prince Philip's disease. And I think Sue was suggesting maybe we have a little bit of talk about his chart.
Well, I have a few things to say, but actually his chart is extraordinary.
Okay, should I? Do you want me to show the chart? Do you want me to show the chart?
I'll keep it short, but there's a
okay, don't worry. And okay, before I will let Sue prepare, but then I will say, because we have our audience, I don't want to say the number, quite a lot. Okay, if you have anything you want to share with us, if you have any question, let us know. And also, if you think about what you want to hear about in the future, let us know, okay? Just write it here, okay? I'll say hello to Luz. Luz, just say hello.
Hi, Luz.
Okay, all right. Let me share the, I know there is a Duke of Edinburgh's chart, but Sue particularly, okay, this is interesting. Sue particularly say recently there's a chart is different birth time. Sue, do you want to have a few words about this? Because what the birth time I found on the astro.com is 10 a.m., right? And then you say there's another chart is 7:45.
Oh no, so hang on a second. It should be Capricorn rising.
Oh, Okay.
Hang on 1 second.
I can let you do yours. Because you say
Thought it was 21:46 actually.
oh, okay, 21:46. Give me one.
Night.
Don't worry. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, let me stop sharing.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I wanted to say a few things because I mean,
Sure.
it's been, you know, a big week for royalty. You know, it's like it's been on the news almost every day, and you know, and of course the funeral is tomorrow. And then after that, it won't be such a sort of dominant feature of the world, if you like, in this country anyway. But it has been quite, you know, a large event. And I thought I would say a few things. I mean, there was some dispute about the time of birth, you see. Back in 1921, when he was born, perhaps they weren't so keen on recording things accurately or something. And there seems to be two, yeah, that's better. Thank you. There seem to be two versions of his chart, but his official birth certificate, written in Greek, very difficult to read if you're English, and handwritten, so it's actually quite hard. It said the official time is supposed to be 10 o'clock in the morning, right, which gives him Leo rising. But this is another time that has been disputed, and it was supposed to be given by the, quote, the attending nanny. One presumes that he was born, and that is 12 hours later, so nearly 12 hours later. So that's a bit strange, really. So when that was the first one I found, and I saw that that had Capricorn rising, and I thought that was very appropriate because he looks like a Capricorn. I mean, the appearance of a person is described to some extent. You know, it's not always true, but to some extent you get an impression of a person through what they actually look like. So it's the way in which they came into the world through a particular sign. And he just looked Capricornian to me. And it was later I discovered there was an official birth time, which is earlier the same day at 10 o'clock in the morning. So we'll have a look at that in a minute. But there are some differences with this. There's lots of things I want to say. Rod, it's probably better actually to go straight to the 10 o'clock chart. And I'll go back and talk about the differences there.
Sure.
Differences. I'm going to keep this brief because there's a lot I could say. Right.
Here we are, 10 o'clock chart.
Yeah. Right. Okay, yeah, here he is. His official birth time is, which gives him Leo rising, which is interesting. I looked at that, I thought, he doesn't strike me as that jolly. Is he really that jolly? But it's got moon there, so it softens it, doesn't it, really? And of course, the Leo on his rising sign matches quite well the moon in Leo in the chart of the woman that he married, the Queen, right? So there's a connection between those two charts. There's lots of connections actually, but I won't go into that, otherwise it would just stop me here forever. Right. One of the other things, I watched a few programs about him, and I discovered a lot about him I didn't know actually, and I didn't realize I knew he was quite outspoken because that's been in the news quite a lot. But I didn't realize what a pusher he was for getting things done. Such a pusher, and very things what comes into his mind he says immediately. And he's also very active in another aspect of this, which is with sport. He was very active in sport and very skilled actually. He did cricket and polo, and later on he did something called carriage driving, which he introduced as a sport in the Olympic Games. He was very, very physical, right? And I was listening to that, and I was thinking, Aries, it must be Aries, even though he's Gemini, he's born in June.
Yeah.
Right? But when I looked at the chart, it's not Aries, it's better. It's Sun conjunct Mars. I mean, in that the planets are often stronger than the signs, you know, so you've got a very strong combination of planets. That's very, very dominant in the chart. So he's got Sun conjunct Mars, right? And he's also, if you look down to that Sun, it's in Gemini, right? So this is a man who is very versatile, very adaptable, could do different things, had lots of different interests. There's very, very Gemini kind of energy, really. And what he took on to do, he did straight away. He didn't mess about or screw around. He just did it, right? He achieved an amazing amount of things in his life, much more than I realised about him, actually. Of course, one of the things he will be remembered for is the Duke of Edinburgh's award, which my son's taken, actually, and met him at the Gold Award. I got invited to James's Palace to go with him. That was amazing. In my life, I've never done anything like that. Okay. But you know, that started when he was 35 years old in 1956. And so with all this pushy energy, he's also got Mercury conjunct Pluto. This is a all very strong part of his chart as well. You know, and that describes how he opens his mouth and whatever comes out, comes out. He doesn't mitigate it very much.
That's very interesting of him, right? Because I think most people remember that he's like a very kind of, he get an image like he just say whatever he want to say, even that cause some interesting effect.
Yeah, no, that's very true. The other thing you might not immediately notice is he's also got a Sun square Saturn, and there's the Capricorn. You see, that's
yes, very tight.
I didn't see that. It's exact. It's an exact square.
Yes.
And you know, Sun conjunct Saturn really does describe an awful lot about one part of his character. He's got many parts of his character, but I mean, some of those things are about he has a lot of discipline, he will take responsibility and carry it well. He's got strong convictions about things. He believes in education. He finds that very important. Gemini Sun as well. And you know, he doesn't take no for an answer. So
okay.
It can be quite dominating and pushy, right? I'm reminded particularly of how he went to a particular school in Scotland called Gordon, which he loved because it involved discipline and sports and all the things that he loved very much. But his poor son, his oldest son Charles, wasn't like that. He sent him off to Gordon, so Charles had a really bad time there. But I'm sure that trying to resist a father with a Sun square Saturn, he's got very strong convictions. Must have been quite difficult. Okay.
Yeah.
Two more things to say very quickly. He's got Jupiter opposite Uranus, so that he's very interested in technology and science and new things and developing things. You know, he converted a lot of the published records to digital. A lot of things I didn't even know about. And again, he's very, very strong on education. It's very important for him. He's got Moon conjunct Neptune on the rising sign on Leo. There perhaps is his and a lot of planets in the 9th house, as I use equal, which I make absolutely no apology. Right?
Yeah.
That shows his interest in Christianity or spirituality. He was
yes.
You know, he was quite a strongly committed Christian.
Okay.
As is the Queen. So that's one thing. Also to soften some of that harshness of the Sun square Saturn sometimes. Okay. And one other thing to say, he also had midheaven, Venus conjunct his midheaven, right? And that says something about, he wrote a lot of books, very Gemini-like. He wrote about 14 books in his life, mostly on specific subjects. But I've got one book that I actually bought randomly years and years ago, back in the 70s. I don't know why I bought it. I just found it. It was called A Question of Balance. And I was thinking, what the hell is that on the chart? it's that Venus. It's up there at the top on the midheaven. You know, and it's somebody who balances things out. Somehow he puts all those different parts of himself together. I mean, this is something I could talk about for an hour.
Yes, so that would be interesting.
But it's an amazing chart.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'll stop. But
Mandy, what's your thought about Prince Philip's chart? Because I think today when we talk about it, you say you also find something quite interesting to talk.
No, it's the first time I've looked at this chart, to be honest with you. But I was looking at that Sun Mars, you know, particularly the exact Sun square Saturn, and it made me think about the life of duty and responsibility and obligation. And it made me think about how a lot of it has come out in the news as he took the role of the, you know, he was a father to his children so that his wife could be the queen that she was. And so that's another way that very strong Saturn. And also I was just actually thinking, maybe reading your mind, Sue, I was thinking, where's this strong spirituality that he had, and then talked about that that Neptune rising and the ninth house activity there. But yeah, so just really echoing what
Marcus,
I didn't know anything. I knew barely anything. I knew about his public gaffes when he would say things that might.
Yes, that's what I know too.
That's about, and the Duke of Edinburgh Award, which I did actually when I was at school, but that was about all I knew about him. So it's interesting.
Yeah, Marcus, you want to add any comment about his chart or anything?
Only two things, I think. One would be the Sun, Mars, Saturn thing we mentioned. Going back to what Mandy just said about him having occasionally foot in mouth disease, you know, particularly as far as speaking about foreigners and some of the controversial things he would sometimes say. Both of those are Mercury ruled loud voiced signs. Both Gemini and Virgo were traditionally loud voiced. So any planets in them get a voice. So his Sun, Saturn, Mars configuration is the configuration in his chart that literally speaks loudest. So it'll be the critical foot in mouth thing that will happen and get publicized because you know what I mean. So it's his.
Sorry, Marcus. Sorry. Could you give us an idea about what is a loud voice sign?
Okay. So some signs traditionally were said to be mute, like they were the water signs, as in they don't speak. And other signs, the signs ruled by Mercury, plus interestingly Libra. So Gemini, Virgo, and Libra were traditionally known as loud voice signs. So the use of that is mainly in horary, where you've got, say, you're asking if somebody, I don't know, has communicated something, or if but it literally means they communicate a lot. Yeah. So mute signs can communicate as well. But anyway, so that's the context. It just means that it gives those planets in those signs megaphones. So it's his Sun, Saturn, Mars configuration that has the megaphones. So that, and obviously Saturn, you don't get to make mistakes when Saturn Mars squares are concerned. You just don't, because any mistakes that you make will be instantly punished. So he'll just so I thought that was interesting. The second thing is just I would really like to know that the birth time, because the only thing I don't know, obviously, because we don't know, there's some confusion about the birth time, and I can certainly see the Leo thing here, Sue. It's just, I would like to see the 7th house and its ruler be much more prominent because he married the Queen. So that could still be the case with the Leo rising, for example, if there was a royal star on the descendant. So if there was if it was a few degrees earlier in Leo, perhaps that might put Altair on the descendant or something.
You're right.
I don't know, just a thought, because I could see this. I could see him with a Leo rising thing, but I don't know. I might agree with you, Sue, about the Capricorn, but I don't know. It's one of those cases where really, we're going to have to guess, because otherwise you'd have to spend a week rectifying the chart.
One thing I noticed, because I'm from foreign country, and I maybe not represent all the foreigner people, but what we know very little about Prince Philip is like what Marcus said. I don't want to use that word, but I know he is very speak something, and very usually it kind of sounds like you're going to cause some trouble, you're going to explain more or something, or think more. Anyway, but one thing I think was last month, because during the pandemic, and we all have different group, and I was joining particular group with Sharon Nye and Robin Ray. We talk about we talk about current affairs every week. So there's one week we're talking about Prince Philip's chart, and both, at least me and Robin Ray, we're crazy about eclipse and lunar phase, moon phase. We did talk about that coming eclipse is on 20-degree Gemini. And then we all say, ooh, that doesn't look nice, because that was the moment he admitted to hospital and have some operation, and I think it's cardiac things. Then we would say, it doesn't look nice,
and he'd had that car crash just a few months before, right?
Yes.
So I wonder if that set him up for this, because that can't have done him any favors.
Yeah. So but it's also like it is also like, but interesting. I have a question because I've been asked this question, and I'm still questioning myself about this because the coming eclipse is in June, not now. Would you think the eclipse is in 2 months' time will have effect?
I've got a thought on this, and this is something I've been playing with for a couple of
Yes.
years. But then we might have to log off soon, Rod, because I've got to go.
Oh, okay.
But I do have one thought on that, which is there's an old technique from Ptolemy for timing when eclipse events would happen, where he says he only looks at eclipses which happen above the horizon where you are in the world, right?
Yes.
So in houses 12 through 7 going clockwise, so above the horizon, and he discounts any eclipses that happen below the horizon. And his timing technique was, if it's happening on the eastern horizon on the ascendant, the effects of the eclipse will begin immediately. If the eclipse is on the descendant, it will happen, the effects will begin in a year's time. So it's a range from now to in 12 months time. I've experimented with, you can probably see where I'm going with this. Eclipses below the horizon, meaning in the past, because if you think about below the horizon as being like the underworld, like the above the horizon is this world, below the horizon is the underworld, and like the ascendant descendant axis is kind of like a mirror. So if it's on the ascendant, it's like, because we do this with astrology, don't we, with birth, we think of the bit between the 4th house and the ascendant as just before you're born, and then you come to the ascendant and the planet's born. So I think of an eclipse happening just inside the 1st house as within a month beforehand, or within a few weeks beforehand. And if it's in the 6th house, it might be almost a year beforehand, and that seems to work. So if you have an eclipse,
I know what you mean. Yeah, because the previous eclipse in December is in UK 6. If you use London, that eclipse is in 6th house.
So that it would mean the effects would begin or show up from that eclipse. If I'm right, this is only hypothetical. It means the eclipse, the time of the eclipse is showing up things which sort of began 6 months, like up to a year earlier or something like that.
And that's so interesting, because he didn't quite make it to 100, did he? And that's his birthday.
So we'd have to see where the eclipse was in the UK. Was it below the horizon? If it's above the horizon, it scuppers my theory entirely.
I mean, okay, let me check it, because very quickly, if I remember the eclipse on the December is right on the 6th house and 7th house cusps.
Interesting. So that might imply that it would only become fully
this one.
So it's below the horizon.
Below the horizon, yes.
And that would imply that this event is sort of like almost a year in the past. So that's how I'd interpret that.
Okay.
Rather than something that will be happening in the future.
in the future.
So, but you were saying about the eclipse in Gemini. That's the one we want to look at. Yes.
This one.
Yeah,
this one is in 9th house, above the
Mm.
horizon. But have you seen it's 19 degrees, so it's pretty close to his sun.
Yeah, but that's what we were saying. That eclipse, according to Ptolemy's rules, wouldn't give its results for another 5 months.
5 months, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That was the time I was thinking that way, but it happened so quickly. Mandy, do you have any comment about this?
No, not really.
Okay.
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, because Marcus say he's about to go, and we are a little bit late, but we start late. Okay, you know what? I should maybe.
One thing actually I've just noticed. You've got Mercury retrograde on that eclipse, which is that's something
Mercury
to watch out for, I think.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
thing to talk about, isn't it?
Indeed. Wow, the time flies so fast, and we always, when we talk about astrology, it's just like on and on. You will always forget about time and the thingy. So I will have a very quick announce about what's going to happen soon. Okay, next week I will have a podcast. We're going to talk about the full moon, and then this is the new project for Academy of Astrology, and we're going to do a series of course, Mundane Astrology series. So here I have already posted the email and the web link on the YouTube's link, so you can check it out. And this series, we will have invited a lot of different astrologers talking about the mundane technique. We'll have Sue Tompkins give a crash course of mundane astrology. We have Lynn Bell, Darby Costello, and Wendy Stacy talking about the outer planet, and Mandy, sorry, and Mandy talking about the outer planet circle, and Mandy will focus on Jupiter, Saturn, right? Jupiter, Saturn, and Great Mutation. Yeah. And we have Sharon. We have Sharon going to talk about Ingress chart. And Robin Ray talk about the moon phase, and Benedict Bradley going to give a lecture about eclipse. So, you know, that is like a whole list of a great speaker. And so please sign up our email, get information about it. So, well, you know, I think we probably about to say goodbye. Anything you want to edit in or comment?
I think we've talked enough.
No,
really.
I don't think
for
so.
now.
Just it's been fun, and yeah, no,
yeah,
not yet. I'm gonna have to. Now that we've just looked at the Duke of Edinburgh's chart, I'm gonna have to go back and look at those eclipses and see if I can find something now.
Yeah, that would be very interesting.
In my bonnet about it now.
Always, yeah. Well, it will haunting you all day. It will haunting you all day. Okay. Okay, so all right. Thank you, everyone. See you next week. Ciao, ciao.
Hopefully.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, don't forget, check our website and subscribe our email.
Yeah.